We all know Family Guy, but did you know that Family Guy has an hour-long whodunit episode? I did not, but then I got 1,000 comments saying that I should try to solve Family Guy, and then there were fewer episodes. From what I understand, and based on the title of the episode, I'm assuming it's like a murder mystery dinner party thing. Someone dies, someone's the killer, we gotta figure it out. And that is what I do best. If you are new to the channel, this is how these videos work. I am going to be watching this murder mystery themed episode of Family Guy for the very first time. And after each commercial break, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to explain the different suspects, theories, and clues that I have, and we're going to try to solve the mystery before the show reveals it. And after each commercial break, I will lock in my guess for who I think did it. That way, when we get to the end of the video, we can go back and we can look and see exactly how close or how far I was from getting it correct.
All right, Joe, way to earn that parking space.
It's about life.
We have a gang shooting on 3rd and Main, 3 wounded, 1 dead.
Is it me or is rap music just getting lazier?
It's about time.
It's broccoli.
For Fox's newest arrival.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Family Guy.
All right, so I've started watching the episode. I am watching it on Hulu. So I don't know if the commercial breaks are different than the original airing, so bear with me. Oh, also, I didn't do the whole conspiracy wall for this one. I figured it was a shorter video. I didn't really want to waste the paper and ink to print out all of the pictures. So I just figured, you know, it's a shorter video. We'll put it up in the editing. The first commercial break hit about 10 minutes into the episode, so this is what we know so far. The episode starts with Peter receiving an invitation for a dinner party in his honor. The whole family drives up to this big mansion, and it's on this giant cliff, and it's got gargoyles and tons of windows. It's just like a real creepy manor, you know? Anyway, they pull up. Next thing you know, like the whole town is showing up too. First, we see Joe and Bonnie. Then we see Derek and Jillian. Jillian is Brian's ex-girlfriend, I'm pretty sure. And Derek is her new boyfriend. Then Quagmire shows up with his date, Stephanie. Mort and Muriel, they're the redheaded married couple. I think they're like Family Guy regulars. They show up. Then the pirate guy that has wooden arms and legs, he shows up. The doctor, Dr. Hartman, and then the 2 news anchors show up. Mayor Adam West shows up, and so does the creepy old perverted guy. And then there's this stoner guy. I don't know his name. I don't remember seeing him in an episode before. So they all go inside and they're seated for dinner, and their host walks through the door. James Woods. This guy has been terrorizing all of these people for years. And now here he is, inviting everyone to a creepy mansion. James Woods tells everyone that he is hosting this party because he has wronged every one of them. And this party is for him to make amends. Because James Woods is a born-again Christian. And most people at the party are pretty skeptical. But then there's other people like Lois, and she's like, hey, well, maybe we should give him a chance. But before anything else could even happen, James and his girlfriend, Priscilla, they go to the kitchen to check on the dinner. And that is when Stephanie, who is Quagmire's date for this evening, sits down in James Woods' chair, and bam, she is shot and killed. And that's all we've seen so far. That was when the commercial happened. So we do not have a ton to go off of, but we do have the foundation of the episode. And even though we haven't got to see many clues, and it's kind of hard to come up with too many theories based on what we have, we still have to lock in a pick for who we think did it for this section. The most obvious answer is James Woods himself. I mean, he is the one who is like a bad guy. He's been terrorizing these people for years, and now he's all of a sudden a born-again Christian. He's inviting everyone to this creepy mansion, and then someone dies. But I'm gonna go ahead and just write him off as a suspect completely, because for two main reasons. One, it's way too obvious. He is very clearly the big red herring of the mystery, right? We're all going to immediately suspect James Woods. And I imagine all of the characters in the episode are going to also immediately suspect James Woods because it's quite obvious, right? This is a misdirect. We're all going to be looking at James Woods. Meanwhile, it's someone back here in the background. See, that usually... I say that line a lot in my videos. Usually there's pictures of people behind me. Man, maybe I should have printed out pictures. The second reason that I think that it was not him is that the gunshot was at James Woods' chair. Like, I don't think that someone was just like, someone had a gun and shot Stephanie. Like, I think that the gun was like aimed at James Woods' chair and it was supposed to kill James Woods. Now, that does give us something to work with, because that means that whoever was trying to kill James Woods had to have set this up earlier, right? It seemed like this was a trap that was set ahead of time, which would have had to have happened before anyone else got there. And we watched everybody that was invited to this party arrive, except for a few people. James Woods, obviously, was there before everyone else. I'm pretty sure it's his house. His girlfriend, Priscilla, was there with him before everyone else. And Consuela, who is like, she's the butler of the evening. Now, we've already thrown out James Woods as a suspect, so that only leaves us with two possibilities. And I'm feeling pretty good, because if this logic is correct, which I think it is, then we've already dropped it down to two suspects. So let's look at Priscilla. Now, I am almost positive that Priscilla has never been in the show before. I'm pretty sure this is like, she's an original character for this episode. I could be wrong, but I do think that this is really important if it is true, because this is not a mystery show. This is just a mystery episode, which means that the things that happen in this episode has an effect on other episodes. Does that make sense? Like, if obviously Peter isn't going to die, right? Because he is a main, like the whole show is about him. So we can't kill him off in this mystery episode or have him be the killer necessarily, because then how do you explain that in the next episode? Now, I know that the show is not like it's not an overarching show, like each episode is its own story, but the way that Family Guy works, I'm pretty sure, is like they keep a consistent continuity, I think. What I'm trying to say is they have introduced characters that are not important to the show, brand new characters, so that way, if something happens to them, it does not affect the main show. Like, Stephanie was a brand new character that we just met this episode. She's dead now. The person who dies at the beginning of this murder mystery couldn't be someone like Quagmire, because then you don't have Quagmire for the rest of the episodes. And the same could be said for the killer. So like, say that the killer of the episode is Joe's wife, Bonnie. If Bonnie is killing everyone, she's probably going to go to jail. So now it's just the kind of thing where it's like Bonnie is in jail for the rest of the show. And they can like bring her up, but she's still in jail, right? So I don't know if it makes sense to have the killer be a main character of the show. It probably makes more sense if it is a new character that was just introduced in this episode, AKA Priscilla. Because if Priscilla goes to jail for life for killing Stephanie, it doesn't affect the rest of the show. We don't care about Priscilla. We just met her. Now, motive-wise, we don't have a motive. But we're only 10 minutes into the episode, so I'm sure that we will find out more information as we go along. It could be any number of reasons for why she would want to kill James Woods. I mean, he could have cheated on her. It could have been like a money situation. Maybe she's just a serial killer who's been tricking him. Like, we really don't have any information motive-wise. But this is another thing to remember. This is Family Guy. This is a silly, goofy show, which means that the big reveal of this murder mystery episode could just be a giant joke. If that is the case, then maybe Consuela is the killer. Like, what if she killed Stephanie, but not on purpose? Like, what if it was like a big accident and they've been running around this whole episode? They're gonna be like, oh, who's the killer? Is it you? Is it me? Who's the killer? We don't know. Meanwhile, there's no actual killer because Consuela just accidentally killed Stephanie. You know, like something silly, like she was she was trying to clean something, but she knocked it over, and it like maybe a gun that was like a hunting gun that was on the wall fell over and landed like on like a hot pan or something, which caused the gun to go off and kill Steph. You know, something real elaborate and stupid. Now, that's just something I came up with, which I think it was a good example, but it's like something like that. She does something silly, it causes Stephanie's death, and then because she was sitting in James Woods' chair, maybe everybody starts panicking and being like, well, maybe they were trying to kill James Woods. Oh God, is it me? Is it you? Because also with Consuela, like I do know that she has been in other Family Guy episodes. And so it's the kind of thing where if she was the killer and she went to jail, then I don't think it affects the show too much. It could just kind of be a gag. Like maybe they even go visit her in jail sometimes. Or maybe they're like, maybe this is a serious episode and Consuela like goes to jail and it's like a big thing and like we just don't see that character anymore after this episode. Do not know what the motive would be if it was on purpose. I'm of the opinion that it was probably an accident if it was her, but maybe it's just like she's tired of everyone's bullshit and just wanted to kill Stephanie or James Woods. I don't know. I'm still confused about that. Regardless, I do feel really good about those two suspects, considering if it was something that was planned before everyone got there, it would have had to have been someone who had access to the house before everyone else arrived. Scylla, Consuela, pretty solid suspects, but I have to lock in one for this section before we can keep watching, so I'm going to lock in Priscilla. I think that it is a lot more likely that the person who is the killer is going to be a character that we have never met before. It's not a major character. It's Priscilla. So for part one of Family Guy and Then There Were Fewer, I am locking in Priscilla.
This is Brian.
You replaced my Jack Daniels with flat Diet Coke.
No, I didn't. And you're noticing this at 8:20 in the morning?
He likes Family Guy.
Whoever did this, thank you.
Before we finish solving this mystery, we have another mystery on our hands. Can we solve the mystery of why Factor meals are so awesome? That's right, baby. This video is sponsored by Factor Meals. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Their team of gourmet chefs create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious. You can get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Personally, I found I was spending way too much money getting food delivered to my house every single night. And Factor has not only saved me a ton of money, but it is just as quick, if not quicker. And I'm getting a really solid, healthy meal, and it takes no more extra time. There's tons of options that help me from just eating the same thing over and over, and they even have tons of great snacks, smoothies, and juices to help stock my fridge. Factor Meals has really helped me a ton, especially now that I'm doing YouTube full time. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50CHASEB to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That is code 50CHASEB, all caps, at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Now that we've solved that mystery, let's get back to Family Guy and Then There Were Fewer.
September 30th. How nuts is the Family Guy season premiere? Brian's getting hitched.
I want you to be the ring bearer and wear a vest and a boutonniere and carry a satin pillow.
Sold. Yes, I'm in.
Family Guy's back. Sunday, September 30th on Fox.
We are back in the episode, and it is exactly as I suspected. Everyone immediately thinks that James Woods killed Stephanie, which, you know, fair enough. So they all run away. They jump in their cars. They try to drive off of the cliff. It's like a little reserved island that this mansion is on. And so the only way in or out is over this bridge. They're trying to drive across the bridge, The storm causes a big tree to fall, crushes the bridge. So now everybody's trapped. No cell service. The phone lines are cut. I acted like there was a third thing, but that's pretty much it. They're trapped in there and they don't have a way to call anybody. So everybody's trapped in the mansion and James Woods actually shows up. So everybody freaks out and they're like, "You killed Stephanie." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And so they go back into the dining room to look at Stephanie's body. Gone. And then the doctor, Dr. Hartman, he's like, "Hey, that's on me, guys. I know I said she was dead, but I'm not really good at that kind of thing. So maybe she wasn't even dead." Well, it's like, where is she then? And then also, it makes more sense if the killer just moved her body, right? I don't know. I might be getting caught up in something that doesn't really matter. Anyway, while they're all discussing where Stephanie's body went and if the killer took it or if she wasn't dead at all, the lights go out. We hear a stabbing noise, and sure enough, James Woods has been stabbed to death. So then everyone's like, "Oh, well, if James Woods is dead now, he probably isn't the killer." And you know what? I think that is a solid assumption from the cast. Meanwhile, Priscilla, she has fainted because her boyfriend was just murdered. Or is she just faking it because she's the killer? Everyone discovers the gun that shot Stephanie. It was hidden behind this like china cabinet and it was set up to a timer and it was aimed at James Woods' chair, which means that I was correct. James Woods was the actual target of the first gunshot and Stephanie's death was an accident, which goes right back to my theory I had earlier in the video where I said that whoever set up that gun and timer, it had to have been before everybody else got there. And the only two people that I think could have set it up before everybody else showed up is Priscilla and Consuela. And I'm thinking Priscilla. Now, come on now, Priscilla. Hey, Scylla, come on now. I think that was Priscilla had something to do with Elvis. So now everyone in the show is on the same page as us, which is Stephanie's dead, James Woods is dead, so that means James Woods is probably not the killer, which means one of them are the killer. And so they're like, well, let's split up and search for clues. But then Peter is messing around with a suit of armor, and he falls down some stairs, and he knocks out Joe. So now Joe's unconscious, and he was the one that was like the head detective of this situation. He's a cop, so he was taking charge. And so since Joe is knocked out cold, Peter is like, well, since I'm the one that knocked him out, it is now my responsibility to solve this mystery. And his first order of business as head detective is to figure out who would have a reason to kill James Woods. Now, would you believe me if I told you that everyone at this party had a reason to kill James Woods, more or less? I mean, after all, this whole party was to make amends to the people that he had wronged. So immediately, they all start accusing each other of being the killer, for having motives to want James Woods dead. It all starts when the female news anchor accuses the male news anchor of wanting to kill James Woods. And then he does admit, he's like, hey, James Woods did kill my acting career, but I did not kill him. And then the male news anchor accuses the pirate guy, whose name is Seamus. He's the guy that has the wooden legs and arms. He accuses Seamus of wanting to kill James Woods. Seamus is like, hey, look, did me and James Wood drop acid together and then James Woods cut off my arms and legs and eat them? Yes. But did I kill him? No. So I hear that and I'm like, that's a pretty solid motive. Maybe he wants to kill James Woods to, you know, get back at him for his accident. I don't think I could say accident when it was, I mean, he ate them. But Seamus is like, I didn't kill him. And he accuses Mayor Adam West. And Mayor Adam West is like, yeah, well, he did take the Twitter handle at Mayor West. So I had to do at Mayor_West. So I did want to kill him, but I didn't. Then Mort accuses the female news anchor, I believe her name is Diane, and she admits that James Woods was supposed to introduce her to some guy, but then instead he introduced her to Danny Bonaducci. Danny Bonaducci. I don't know who that is. Anyway, that's why she hates him. But then she accuses the old perverted guy, and he was like, well, he did replace my Cialis with crystal meth. So again, I don't know what James Woods was doing, but I can see why someone wanted to kill him. But everyone here has a reason. Quagmire, hated him because he stole Cheryl Tiegs from him. Brian's TV show pilot was ruined because of him. At one point, he punched Bonnie in the throat. So everyone has a reason to kill him. And then they find a hidden staircase behind a bookshelf, and it leads them to this office where he has like a book of amendments that he's trying to make. And that we learned even more motives in there. Like there's one that's a pretty serious one. I don't even think I could say it on YouTube about Consuela. So let's keep that in our minds because Consuela was one of our main suspects. But then we get a big reveal that Mort's pharmacy was actually selling him tons and tons of Oxy. And Mort is like, I did not. We find out Muriel did. Muriel is obviously Mort's wife. They own the pharmacy together. Turns out Muriel was selling him tons of drugs. And then when she threatened to cut him off, he said he was going to go to the feds and expose her for being a drug dealer. So now everyone is like, well, Muriel obviously killed James Woods to keep her from going to jail for life. I don't know if you get life sentences for dealing Oxy at a pharmacy, but you know, who knows? But then the lights go out, Muriel disappears. Everyone's like, oh my God, Muriel killed James Woods and now she's disappeared. She's somewhere in the mansion. We've got to find her. And so right as they were like dividing up into teams to go and look for Muriel, like dividing up into pairs of 2 and 3, that is when our next commercial break hit. And so that is what we've seen up to this point. And I think that we've got a lot of solid reasons to keep looking at Priscilla. She is conveniently passed out still in the other room with Joe, who is also knocked unconscious. So that means that when everyone is now off searching for Muriel, she is going to be alone, which allows her to move around in secret. And Priscilla is the only person that we have not heard a motive from, which I think means that we're going to hear the motive of why Priscilla would potentially want to kill him later in the episode, closer to the reveal, if not the actual reveal. Because we've heard all of these very wacky accusations, like he took my Twitter handle, some very serious allegations, like dropping acid and cutting off arms and legs. But I think all of these motives that the show just handed to us on silver platters was a distraction to keep us from looking at people whose motives we did not hear about, which pretty much only leaves Priscilla. I mean, the Priscilla theory, still my number one, but we do have 2 other theories still in play. One being the Consuela theory. We found out a very serious allegation for a motive from Consuela, but you know, I don't know. Then we have this new thing with the Muriel selling him Oxycontin. Muriel has disappeared. You know, the lights went out and the lights came back on. But when the lights come back on, Muriel's just gone, which means she could be the killer, potentially. I don't think so, because I feel like that would be way too soon in the episode to just like drop, hey, Muriel wants to kill him, and then Muriel's gone. I think it's more likely that we find Muriel and they still think it's her, and then the real killer shows up or something like that. Regardless, I don't love either of those theories. I really think the Priscilla theory is the one to rock with. She was at the house before everyone arrived. She could have set up the gun with the timer. She is currently passed out. She has fainted after seeing that James Woods was killed, which means that she has plenty of opportunity to move around the house with no one watching her. And we did not get a motive from her yet. For all of those reasons, I really do think it's Priscilla. But then I got to put my detective hat back on. Not literally. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I have lost my detective hat. I think it could just be in my laundry somewhere. But unless you want me to put on the Archie wig from the Riverdale video, we're just going to have to rock with my real hair. But I've got to put my detective hat back on and remember that this is Family Guy. This is a silly show. So we need to be keeping an eye out for silly reasons. Because Stewie's whole thing is that he's an evil baby, right? So maybe this is just a whole thing that Stewie has set up and he's just picking people off one by one and the big reveal. And no one's going to think the baby did it. Wink, wink to another video that I tried to solve on this channel. The baby, no one suspects the baby. But yeah, so like I guess it's still a possibility that it's just something goofy like that. But we don't have any concrete proof or any sort of evidence to even suspect something like that theory. So I'm going to lock in for this section of Family Guy and then the reviewer. I am locking in Priscilla. Let's keep watching.
Sunday on Adult Swim. The fun starts when Brian becomes a hopeless drunk.
Those are huge boobs. What?
and Meg accidentally joins the lesbian club.
Mom, Dad, I am a lesbian.
That is awesome.
Okay, we've watched the next section of the show, and I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is that everyone in the show suspects Priscilla now, because at some point while they were split up and searching for Muriel, Priscilla woke up and disappeared, which means, it essentially means that if everyone in the show is now suspecting Priscilla, then Priscilla is probably not the killer because it's not the time for the reveal, and yet everyone's attention is focused on Priscilla. So what's the good news? Well, the good news is that 2 more people are dead, which means we have 2 less suspects to try to weed out, which increases our odds of picking the correct killer. Wait, Chase, who was killed? Thank you for asking. Everyone was split up into groups to find Muriel. And, well, Stewie and Brian dead. She was stabbed to death with the same knife that stabbed James Woods. Now, this is good news for us because, we have a pretty solid, lead of finding some more clues. But first, I want to say that I was very shocked that Muriel is dead now. Because, I did that whole spiel earlier in this video talking about how they're not going to kill someone or make someone be the killer who is kind of like a regular on the show. And yet now Muriel is just dead, which means that from now on, I don't know when this episode aired, but there's a lot of seasons of that show. Muriel's not in any of the rest of them, I assume. I don't know, maybe things just reset after this. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I now have to suspect people that are not just characters that were introduced in this episode. The reason that Muriel being stabbed to death is good news is because everyone that was searching for Muriel, all of our cast of characters, were grouped up. And there was only a few people who were by themselves when Muriel was killed. There's Priscilla, of course, who, had fainted, so she was passed out by herself with Joe, who was also knocked out. But at some point, Priscilla woke up and left that room. Now, this is why everyone in the show thinks Priscilla did it, because they're like, well, she could have just, everybody else was paired up. She could have just went and killed Muriel. But Meg and the stoner guy, whose name is Carl, by the way, they actually got split up during their investigation. Meg fell through a trap door. So that's 2 more people who were by themselves when Muriel died. And then the 2 news anchors also got separated by a secret door behind a painting. So that's another 2 suspects who were by themselves when Muriel died. Now we have 5 suspects who were by themselves when Muriel was killed. Chase, I thought you said 2 people died in this section of the episode. Yes, Derek. Derek, if you don't remember, is Jillian's boyfriend. Now, if you also don't remember, Jillian is Brian's ex-girlfriend. So Derek, he goes up to the roof by himself after Muriel's death, and he's trying to get a phone service. He's trying to get a signal on his phone because he got 1 bar for a split second, and then it went away. And he's like, oh, I bet if I go up to the roof, I can get a good signal and I can call 911. So he goes up there. He does get a signal for a second, but then the killer walks up there to him, pushes him off the roof, and he falls to his death. Derek sees the killer walking up to him before the killer pushes him to his death. And Derek says, hey, what are you doing up here? And then he goes, oh God, it's you. You're the killer. And then the killer hits him in the head, pushes him, which means that who Derek saw was someone that he knew. So we know that it is someone that Derek has met tonight. It's one of the people at the party. So my first thought is, okay, well, who would want to kill Derek? Brian used to date Jillian. Maybe Brian's jealous that Derek and Jillian are together. But then I immediately kind of threw that out because it's pretty obvious what the motive is to kill Derek. He was up there trying to call the police. The killer just had to kill him to stop him from calling the police. So if we go through the list of people who have died tonight so far, it looks like the only person who was actually supposed to die was James Woods, right? Stephanie was accidentally sitting in his chair, and James Woods gets killed. Then Muriel gets kind of blamed for the murder, and then she runs away, and then she dies. So I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. And then Derek is trying to call the police, and he gets killed. So it is probably not someone with a grudge against Derek. Plus, Stewie was with Brian the whole time. So unless the two of them were doing all of this together, which again, could be a wacky Family Guy thing, but I doubt it. So then my next logical step is, okay, well, let's look at the 5 suspects who were alone when Muriel died. Priscilla, Meg, Carl, and then the 2 news anchors. And I'm thinking, okay, if I really wanted to, I could make any of these 5 look guilty, right? Maybe Meg is fed up with people messing with her and bullying her. So now she's just finally snapped. Like, I could just make up a motive for all 5 of them. The realistic thing is we don't have a motive really for any of them. So we kind of have a motive for all of them. And I'm pretty sure it's not Priscilla. So that leaves us with 4, right? Meg, Carl, and then the news anchors. That's I have a 25% chance of getting it right if I just pick one of these at random. And if I eliminate Meg because she's a main character of the show, then I have like a 33.33% chance of just picking one of those 3 and, hoping for the best. So that's when I really started thinking okay, what could possibly be the motive for any of those 3? And I couldn't really come up with one that would have we don't have any clues in this episode that would show us the motive of any of those 3 or 4, including Meg. So I'm racking my brain about that. And that's when I get the best idea that I have probably ever had in any of my Can I Solve videos. I have a theory that I am so confident about. It's wacky enough to be a Family Guy reveal, but also the clues are there. At one point, when everyone had been split up into teams to find Muriel, Jillian and Derek were together and they went and looked in the attic. And when they're looking in the attic, we get a jump scare of a cat. And Jillian is like, hey, maybe the cat did it. I'll ask him. Meow, 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 meow. And the cat responds with a British accent. And he's like, we don't all talk like that. And Derek's like, oh, I'm so sorry about this. And he's like, you better be. And when that scene first happened, I was like, oh, that's a funny gag. But then I was like, wait a second. That cat can talk. And that cat has been on its own this whole time. That cat was probably in the house before all the guests arrived, meaning that cat had time to set up a gun timer trap. And the cat speaks English, which means that he's probably more of a Brian type character, right? Brian is a dog, but he's a dog who can talk. He's like a human character. Maybe it's the same for this cat. And Derek and Jillian were the only 2 characters who have met this cat, who have seen this cat. So when Derek is on the roof and the character that is about to push him off of the roof is walking towards him slowly, and Derek goes, oh, what are you doing up here? Oh my God, it's you. He has met the cat, which means that the cat could be the killer. So the cat's got every bit of opportunity. The cat falls in to all of our criteria to be the killer. But what is the cat's motive? I don't know. I don't know the cat's motive, but I also don't know the motive for our other suspects. So if I've got to just come up with a motive for any of my 4 or 5 suspects, I might as well come up with a motive for the one that I think has the most opportunity. And the cat is the only one out of Meg, Carl, and the 2 news anchors who would have had time before everyone arrived to set up the gun timer trap. Because let's not forget about that. That was our whole thought process in the beginning of this video. At the beginning of this episode of Family Guy, we were like, it had to have been someone who has access to the house before everyone arrived, which only gave us James Woods, Priscilla, and Consuela. And now the cat. Can't be James Woods. He's dead. Probably not Priscilla. We've pretty much ruled her out because it's too obvious, because the whole cast of characters suspect Priscilla now, not them. Could still be Consuela. I just don't think so. And the reason I don't think it's Consuela is because we get this scene when everyone is being split up into their teams to go find Muriel. Consuela is with like Mayor Adam West and Mort. And Mayor Adam West is like, hey, you guys want to smoke some weed? And they're both like, oh, no. They're afraid of committing a crime of smoking illegal drugs, which means that if Consuela is afraid to commit the crime of smoking weed, then she's probably too afraid to commit the crime of committing murder. It's what my great aunt always used to say. If you're too afraid to smoke, you're too afraid to kill. And I never knew what she meant by that, but now I do. Thank you, Family Guy. Thank you for solving this family mystery for me. Anyway, I think the cat's the killer. That's what I'm trying to say. I know it seems insane, but we did another similar Can I Solve video to this one with the Simpsons Whodunit episode, and it was a pretty wacky reveal, and so I'm kind of thinking this one's probably gonna be a pretty wacky reveal. Okay, I'm locking that in. I'm locking in the cat for this section of the episode. Hey, let's keep watching. Before we get to the next part, I do want to bring up something super fun. If you're a fan of like murder mystery parties, kind of like the one in this episode, you should look into the Murder Mystery Company. They've got tons of locations all over the country, so there's probably one near you. It is a ton of fun. It's a really cool experience where, you know, you can go to this thing and maybe you end up being the killer at the end of the night. And I gotta find out if it was you. Yeah, but I've got a link in the description down below if you want to check them out. It's a really fun activity to do with friends or family or even for like a business thing. And you can use my code, all uppercase, crime chase, one word, crime chase, and you'll get 10% off. So they're super cool. I like working with them, so you should check them out. All right, cool. Let's keep going.
Ah, damn it, Meg!
We got the reveal. And spoiler alert, the cat doesn't even fucking come up again. So my bad. That's on me. I really dropped the ball on this one. Hey, this was actually a really good mystery. I was really banking on it being like a silly, goofy reveal, but it wasn't. It was a really good reveal. I mean, the episode, of course, is very funny and it's got good bits and stuff throughout, but it's just like when it comes to the actual mystery part, it is a good mystery. It's not just a joke. So the killer was Diane, the female news anchor. Turns out she was dating James Woods, and then she turned 40. And so James Woods dumped her, probably because she turned 40. And at the same exact time, her co-anchor, the male news anchor, Tom was getting her replaced for a younger, more attractive news anchor at the station. So both her career and personal life was falling apart. And so she created this plan to get her revenge. She got a young new news intern named Priscilla to start dating James Woods, and he did fall for it because he's dumb. He's a dumb man. And Priscilla convinces him to become a born-again Christian, to try to make amends, and to throw this party to apologize to all of the people that he has wronged. So Priscilla has been doing all of that dirty work while Diane, the news anchor, has been puppeting James, and he doesn't even realize it. Her plan is to, of course, set up the gun timer trap, kill James, then plant that gun in the male news anchor Tom's bag. Therefore, James Woods is dead. Her co-anchor, who is getting her replaced, will be going to jail. Two birds, one stone. But of course, things went awry. Stephanie was sitting in James Woods' seat, which means that Stephanie died. Now, Diane had to improvise, so she just stabbed James Woods when the lights went out. But she had fingerprints on the knife, right? So then she had to go back and get the knife out of James Woods. And while she was doing that, Priscilla woke up from being passed out and saw her. So now Diane's got to kill Priscilla. So she stabs Priscilla to death, you know, and then she shoves Priscilla up into Tom's vent in his bedroom. So that way he gets the blame for that murder as well. But while she's doing that, Muriel, who had been wandering around while everybody was looking for her, stumbled upon her and saw her doing that. So then she had to stab Muriel and kill Muriel. But she didn't have enough time because she could hear people coming. So she just wiped the fingerprints off and then left. So that's when Stewie and Brian found Muriel's body. So that's how all that happened. And then Derek was going to call the police, but Diane wasn't ready for the police to arrive yet because not everything was done. And so she killed him. What a great mystery. Honestly, I'm sure that like, this was my first time watching the episode. I'm sure now that I know the reveal, if I watched the episode, there's some subtle clues throughout that we didn't pick up on that make this even cooler. Maybe I'll do that as like a follow-up video where I go through the episode like almost frame by frame or scene by scene, and we point out little things that like, oh, look, she wasn't standing here because she was over there killing somebody and we just didn't even notice she wasn't in the background. Yeah, that would be fun. This was a super dope mystery. I had a lot of fun making this video. I know it's a lot shorter than my bigger projects, but my goal is to do 2 of these videos a month. So 1 big one and 1 smaller one like this. Yeah, I just want to say thank you again to Factor Meals for sponsoring this video. And I want to, hey, shout out. I got a Patreon. I got merch linked down below. If you like Survivor, I have a Survivor podcast. It's called Making the Merge. It's pretty fun. And yeah, so cool.